Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have two stories for you from the AmITheA subreddit. And yes, they both have updates. Make sure to follow us on your preferred podcasting platform, and if you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really does help us out. Alright, let's jump into today's stories. This story comes to us from Professional Cry 1342. Am I the butthole for refusing to help my dad's ex-wife with rent after his passing, even though she is struggling and my half-brother is still a minor? So here's the situation. My dad passed away 3.5 years ago when my half-brother was 11 years old. My dad and his ex-wife had been separated for about 5 years before his death, but they weren't legally divorced. During that time, they didn't really have much contact, and she didn't join any family gatherings or events. Even during the funeral, she wasn't there, where my aunt, my grandma, and I, 32 female, were, and I didn't have a close relationship with her. My dad was also struggling financially, and he didn't leave anything behind, apart from a small boat he had purchased in my name, which I sold and put the money aside for my brother's future, and started paying towards his needs, such as education fees and monthly allowances for him. My dad had still been supporting my half-brother's mom financially, even though they weren't living together, and I only had to communicate with her a few times after his passing about my brother's expenses. Here's where things get tricky. My aunt has been paying the rent for my dad's ex-wife and my half-brother for the past 3.5 years, as my dad's ex-wife claims to be struggling financially. She works full-time, but also receives a pension through my dad. Now, the landlord wants them to move out, and my aunt, who has been helping with rent all this time, is not in a position to pay for the rent in the future apartment. My dad's ex-wife is now asking me for help with rent, claiming she's still struggling. I'm honestly conflicted. I don't have a strong relationship with her, and I don't feel it's my responsibility to help her out with rent, especially when I'm already helping my brother. I've made it clear that I can't help with the rent, but she's persisting and threatening me to tell my brother that I'm this bad sister who is not helping him out with their housing situation. And she told me if I'm not helping her out with rent, I shouldn't act like a good sister and help out on anything else as well. I feel like it's not fair that I should take on this burden when I'm already looking out for my brother's well-being, and especially when my aunt has already been helping her all this time. My primary focus is on my brother's future, and I just don't want to take on any more responsibilities that aren't my own. I also want to mention that while my dad financially supported my dad's ex-wife when they were separated, their relationship was strained, and I never felt close to her. I'm struggling with whether I'm being unreasonable for not helping her, even though she's in a tough situation. So, am I the butthole for not wanting to help her out with rent, even though she's claiming that she is struggling? Alright, we have two updates for this one, but before that, let's jump down to the comments. We have one from a user called Desert Song La La. It says, "Not the butthole. She is a manipulative person and really unkind, threatening you with ill words and access to your stepbrother. The bigger question is, why does she not have enough money? She receives your dad's pension, and she will qualify for money for your brother through Social Security if in the USA, unless your dad is not on the birth certificate. What did this woman save in the past 3.5 years when her rent was being paid? If you help her, never give her money directly. Before you pay a cent, she needs to sign up for all and any social support services. Subsidized housing, utility assistance, food stamps, nutritional assistance, free Wi-Fi, free healthcare. If she tells you she was denied, she needs to provide the rejection correspondence. If she is receiving help, she can work with a social worker for budgeting and show you a full account of incoming cash versus bills. She will threaten you through your stepbrother no matter what you do, even if you help. If you do pay a bill, she provides her account number and company name so you pay it directly. This may not be advice you wanted, but there is a lot to manage here. Her ask. In the meantime, negotiate how you can spend time with your brother. Convey to him and ensure he has your contact info in the event she cuts you off. Best to you." OP responded to this one and said, "Thanks a lot for the advice. Unfortunately, they are not based in the US, and all she is entitled to is my dad's pension, which is not that much. According to what she told me, her income is around 3 minimum wages in the country she is living in, and according to my research, she should be able to afford a decent apartment in a nearby neighborhood to my brother's school. Should cost her around 1 min wage, and she should be able to afford her living expenses with the remaining. However, she is claiming that to get a decent apartment, she needs to pay half of her income, and she can't afford her living expenses with the rest, and she wants me to pay the difference on what she can afford and what is decent for her. I have lived in a different country for a while now and am able to see my brother maybe once a year. I care about him deeply, and it concerns me that she would turn him against me. However, I don't want to help an adult with their rent, which is the most basic thing that they should take care about. I completely understand OP's moral dilemma, and it's made even worse by the fact that the stepbrother is still a minor, so it's not like OP can just say, "Oh, come live with me, and we'll figure it out." It really is a difficult situation to navigate. Let's get into OP's first update and see what they did. The first update says, "Thank you everyone for supporting my decision. I'm overwhelmed by the support I've received. I just want to provide a bit more context about the countries involved without going into too much detail. I'm originally from a Middle Eastern country and moved to Europe a couple years ago to work under better conditions. My brother and his mom still live in my home country. Things have been tough there, just like everywhere else, and she is not the only one struggling. In our culture, families help each other out. However, even though my family loves my brother and has done everything to support him, we feel like she is using us at this point, and I don't want to give in to her manipulation. My mom was a single parent who worked 2 jobs to provide me with housing and all my needs until I was able to provide for myself, so her attitude is really frustrating me even more. As some of you suggested, I don't want to help her with budget planning or finding a new apartment because I'm afraid that if I help her even a little, she'll keep asking for more. I also think she wants to maintain an expensive lifestyle. She isn't into substances or gambling, as far as I know, but she does spend a lot on luxury cosmetics, branded clothing, and even some Botox and similar treatments. Regarding taking my brother to live with me, it would be very complicated due to visa processes, but if things get worse, I will do everything in my power to arrange that. I told her that life is tough for everyone. I'm in no position to pay rent, and I'm not going to send her any money from my brother's account for her rent because he will need it more in the future. It is her responsibility to find somewhere to live within her budget. I also told her I don't want her to contact me ever again about anything related to this topic, as I don't believe it is my responsibility to help her. She was shameless enough to say that she didn't want the full rant, just my share that I had to support for my brother's sake. I will send my brother a text message in a couple days, letting him know that I love him. I'm always there for him, and he can reach out to me personally whenever he wants. I'm also considering giving him a debit card. She has until the end of this month to leave the current apartment, and I'm waiting to see how things will unfold." Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Zealous Ideal Call 183. It says, "Offer to get her a financial advisor to help with her budgeting. If she works full-time and has a pension, they should be able to assist. You've done your part then." Another commenter down below called Chicago White Sox 35 said, "Not the butthole. She's manipulating everyone to pay her bills. Do not give her any money. She's had 3.5 years to figure out her own crap." Okay, my one main point of advice for OP on this one is definitely do not give your brother a debit card because he's a minor and she will have access to it guaranteed. There's no way he can hide that from her completely, and it will not go the way you want it to. You'd basically be giving her access to your money. Alright, a couple days after that last update, OP updated again. It says, "Update, am I the butthole for refusing to help my dad's ex-wife with rent after his passing, even though she is struggling and my half-brother is still a minor? Big thanks to everyone encouraging me to not give any money to my dad's ex-wife. I followed your advice and very happy with my decision. So here's why. Over the weekend, I realized I was blocked on socials by the ex-wife, and also my brother removed me as well. I reached out to my brother directly because I wanted to make sure he knew that none of this was his fault and that I will always be there for him. I didn't want to say anything that could damage his relationship with his mom, but I needed him to know that I did nothing against him and that he can always reach out to me. To my relief, he responded right away and reassured me that he has no hard feelings toward me at all. He already knew that a lot of what his mom told him wasn't true, and even said he was actually happy about the decision I made. He told me that if he were in my position, he would have done the same thing. One of the most upsetting parts of our conversation was when he admitted that he never liked asking me for money through his mom because it made him feel like a beggar, but she insisted on it. He also told me that she had been looking for an apartment way beyond her budget and had been trying to collect money from different people to afford it, which confirmed my suspicions. I also learned that now they found an apartment within whatever budget she has. What really broke my heart was when he said he needed to delete our messages because his mom sometimes checks his phone, and if she found out we talked, she would be very upset with him. It made me realize just how much control she has over him. I reassured him that the money I was sending for him is still his, kept safely with me, and that when he needs anything, I will find a way to help him, but it won't be through his mom anymore. He understood and seemed relieved. He also told me that he's already thinking about his future carefully and wants to choose a profession where he can be financially independent, so he never has to worry about money. Honestly, I was happily surprised by how mature and self-aware he is for a 15-year-old. Despite everything, he's handling the situation with so much understanding and perspective, and it makes me even prouder to be his sister. For now, I will keep in touch with him privately to make sure he knows he is not alone. I told him that when he grows up, I'll be there to support him, especially for things like university. He knows that no matter what happens, I will always have his back. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called TougherMF. It says, "This update just confirms that you made the right call. Your brother is smart and sees through his mom's manipulation, which says a lot. Keeping direct support for him instead of funneling money through her is the best move. She's clearly been using guilt and control to get what she wants, and now that the money train stopped, she's cutting you off. Good riddance. Keep being there for your brother, he's lucky to have you." OP responded to this one and said, "Thank you for the support. If anything, this situation made our relationship stronger with my brother, and now I know the money will only go to his needs and not to his mom. OP, your brother seems to be wise, very much so beyond their years for only being 15. I know it's going to be a bit of a struggle knowing that they're still there with their mother and their mother just can't take care of themselves, let alone the two of them. I hope you really keep in touch with that brother, and when they become of the age where they can make their own decisions about where they want to be, maybe they could go be with you, or at least be close to you so you can continue to help them out. OP, you have a huge heart, and your brother is very lucky to have you." This story comes to us from Pretend Mode 9494. Am I the butthole for refusing to babysit my nephews again for free? I'm 29 female, child-free by choice. My sister C is 27 female, has two boys ages 3.5 and 2. We live close to each other, and I've been in their lives since the beginning. We are each other's only family. We come from a broken and dysfunctional family. I love the boys, but they are a lot of work, especially on top of my own career in social work and my personal reasons for not wanting kids of my own. I watch them, help out, babysit probably 10 to 20 hours a week currently, and it's getting exhausting. The times I've been needed have slowly increased, and over the last 7-ish months, it's been like this. At first, it was C looking for a part-time job, going to mandated courses to get unemployment, occasional movie nights with friends, etc., which I was okay with. Now, I spend most of my free time at their house. Lately, the cause has been that her best friend's mom is dying, and C needs to be there. She's a single mom, and I get that it's hard, but recently, I feel like she's using me, and I rarely see my fiancé as we both work shifts that change all the time. Sometimes, when she's asked me to watch them and I've had some other plans, C sends me a voice message of the boys crying, missing me, guilt-tripping me, saying it's such a shame I care more about myself than them, telling me she would ask someone else if she had anyone else to ask, saying really mean things about me being selfish for wanting to enjoy a date night when she has to choose between her kids and her best friend's dying mom. I could handle if that's all it was, but now it's also affecting the next time we meet. When I get there, the house is a mess, there's nothing to eat, and they happen to have a day for a shower or bath, or C casually mentions that I need to put together a gym bag or something similar for them for the next day. These weird extra things that are obviously revenge. The first time this happened, I assumed she'd be grateful I helped where I could, but it wouldn't be an issue if I didn't have time to do everything. I was quickly proven wrong. Before she got home, she casually asked if I had done the extra things, and when I hadn't, not all anyway, she suddenly had to stay a little later. This happened a few times, and I'm ashamed to admit it took me too long to understand what was happening. I was just glad she was updating me on her estimated arrival time. She usually never did that. Another thing she does for revenge, I feel like could be my exhausted interpretation, is not prepare meals for the kids or even leave money. When I go to the store, she promises to pay me back, but, you guessed it, tries to guilt me into saying she doesn't have to pay. She's also not kept her word about some things she promised, saying she doesn't want to do things for me if I can't help her with the boys. The excuses and backtracking on stuff starts immediately if I don't do exactly what she wants. The latest example, I asked to borrow a dress for a wedding because I didn't want to buy one, and we had always borrowed each other's clothes, and she agreed. 4 days before the wedding, I couldn't show up as fast as she wanted on a short notice, so she said I could forget about borrowing the dress, and she'd forgotten she needed it herself. I had to panic buy one. Last month, she promised to pick me up after leaving my car for some maintenance, and she didn't show up. I was stranded. Took her 2.5 hours to answer her phone and get there. She also had the audacity to huff and puff about how inconvenient it was she had to drive me. Sorry this is so long, but it's been mind-blowing writing this all down and seeing what I'm putting up with. I'm such a doormat. So yesterday, I told her I couldn't come today when she called, desperately needing me to watch the boys for the evening. And when she started her tirade of me being selfish, I kind of just snapped. I told her to shut up and listen. If she thought I was that horrible of a human and so selfish, she had two options. Either stop relying on me so much and letting her kids be exposed to my selfishness, or I'll really start being selfish and will not watch them free of charge ever again. Never do anything extra without being compensated. She hung up without saying anything. After I had stopped shaking, I hate confrontation as you can imagine. I started to really panic as I feel like I just lost my last remaining family member. My fiance said it was a long time coming and I should have stood up for myself ages ago, but he's biased as he loves me. I don't really have time for proper friends outside work colleagues, so I don't know who else to ask if I made the biggest mistake of my life. What if I don't see my nephews again? What if I had just done it a bit longer and she'd eased a bit? Am I the butthole for telling her to choose between my options? OP added a quick edit at the bottom. It says, my two examples seem like I ask her or need her for stuff often, which I don't. The promises she breaks can be just as simple as having food for the boys when I'm with them. The dress and leaving me without a ride are just specific events that were easier to explain, but I quickly realized it's not accurate. Before we get to OP's update, let's jump into the comments. We have one from a user called ASOT1. It says, you lost an user, not a family member. This is an abusive relationship, and she uses every tool of an abuser to control you and your brother. What she's been doing to you is verbal, psychological, and financial abuse. It's beyond messed up and isn't love. Please set your hard boundaries and stand by them. She needs the reality check, and you deserve to not be used and abused. Block her so you don't go back. Another user down below called IcyWorldliness9111 said, you know that not seeing your nephews again is never going to happen. Your selfish sister has been taking advantage of you for too long, and to her, your standing up for yourself is just a temporary setback in her manipulations. The only way her behavior is going to change is when yours changes. You need to set some clear boundaries and follow them with solid expectations of how you expect her to treat you. For example, Guilt tripping, name calling, accusations, etc. are to end. If she tries any of these manipulative tactics, there will be clear consequences, and you need to follow through. If you tell her you can't babysit and she starts the guilt, you tell her something like no babysitting for a month because of her behavior. Altering your behavior is the only way you can change hers. Oh, and all those times she needs to comfort her friend with the dying mother, you realize those are just BS. She just wants free time from the kids and is just trying to play on your empathy. Your sister is a Class A butthole. OP responded and said, "Thank you, I feel so stupid. I only thought about the friend's mom thing being BS like last week. I asked C how she was doing, and she took a second too long to remember what I was talking about." So that was OP's original post from 11 days ago. OP updated this 9 days ago. It's titled, "Update, am I the butthole for refusing to babysit my nephews again for free?" It's gotten worse, with her name calling me if I have other plans and her punishing me and the kids next time by leaving the house messy and not preparing food, only coming home after I've done what she demanded, clean, cook, bath time, etc. I finally told her I can't do this anymore and made her choose to either go low contact or agree to my terms watching the boys in the future. A lot has happened. I'm trying to write concisely. During the first 24 hours after me telling her that ultimatum, I decided not to answer her calls or texts to let her cool down. She called 77 times, sent over 100 texts and voice messages. They're mostly just her calling me a horrible person who abandons her family. I outlined a few rules with my fiance's help for the future if she comes to her senses and agrees to my terms. I wanted them to be ready, even though it looked like she will never come around. I had conditions like I could watch them up to 3 times in 2 weeks, not more than 4 hours at a time. Meals need to be provided, no bath time or bedtime. I'm not spending any money. I got messages from an unknown number, fiance says it's an app or something, saying how horrible of a sister I am because now they have to watch their mom die alone without C there to comfort them. Based on the suspicions I had earlier and the language similarities, I think this was my sister pretending to be her friend. I talked to my supervisor on Friday afternoon and asked for her opinion. I first asked if it was okay to talk about personal stuff, and she was great about it. I don't work with children, and CPS has never been a part of my work, so I wanted to double check with someone more senior. We made a report together on C. The supervisor said it's better to do so, especially now that it's escalated, and she might retaliate against me by hurting the boys in some way, as she's obviously not above that. I'm probably going to give her next week to cool off before resuming contact, and depending on what the messages and voice messages say then, I might contact her. If they are as abusive as now, I probably won't respond at all. It makes me unbelievably upset, but I hope the boys will also get a more stable environment without me, as she's using them as pawns with me. Fiance says hello and wants everyone to know he's here for me and wants to assure everyone I'm not really that bad of a doormat, just for C for some reason. I'm looking into counseling through my work. It's too expensive out of pocket. Thanks for the messages and the shift kicks I obviously needed. For some reason, I've become blind to my sister's behavior and was only concerned whether I'd lose the boys from my life. Probably will update when or if I resume contact with my sister if people want to know how it goes. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called FunctionAggressive75. It says, 77 calls and 100 texts show that there's no way now or in the future to set a boundary that she won't cross. She sounds unhinged, not the butthole. Another commenter down below called Pixtron32 said, it's hard to set boundaries with a sister who is used to you doing so much for them. Your boundaries never existed previously, and now you've got some. You are selfish only because they inconvenience her. I'm so glad you're going to get therapy to work on this, and that your fiance and supervisor were helpful to gain clarity on the situation. I'd highly recommend reading Codependency No More by Melody Beattie and Women Who Love Too Much by Robin Norwood. You've done the right thing. Just remember, she may wipe her memory of any kindness you've ever done. This is because she will be hyper-focused on the lack of your behavior rather than the extreme generosity of your own needs. She chose to have children. She needs to care for them herself. My sister turned up at my house with her baby screaming at me when I was really ill, and I just refused to let her in one time. My mother called saying that the baby will get a cold in a country that is not cold at all. People in Russia and Scandinavia put their babies outside to sleep in winter, even to this day. While going through for more comments on this one, I actually found another update from OP in a comment down below from 2 days ago. It says, "Update. Boring update, but my fiance unblocked C for a few hours to see if she was still messaging abusive stuff. She was. Nothing new there. CPS called and asked for more info, which I provided. They wanted to know specific dates and whether I had proof, and I sent them a lot of screenshots of messages with C. I chose to make the report with my name on it as I felt like it added credibility. And it also kind of felt like a punishment for me to use my name, especially after waiting so long to make the report. Meaning my sister could now also know for sure it was me who made the report and I'd face the consequences for it. I've had one Zoom appointment with a psychologist through my work. It's been great so far, and I already got homework on boundaries. Seems fast, but she said they're trained to move quickly, as we are usually provided 5 visits, and there should be progress in that time. I haven't heard from C or the kids other than the abusive messages. I'm ashamed to say I've driven by the house a couple of times just to see if everything looks normal, and it does. I had a talk with my fiance after a commenter suggested the kids might need to be removed from C, and if we were planning on fostering or whatever, if it came to that. We aren't. We don't want kids, and have known that from the beginning. The day-to-day life as a family with kids sounds absolutely horrible, to be honest. There's nothing that appeals to us. We don't even want pets. We would become resentful, and probably would lose ourselves in the process if we went there. I don't know how much there is to update after this, maybe if the contact resumes, but honestly, I'm afraid to send her anything as she's just insulting me. I don't think she'd even really read what I wrote if I tried. Okay, so I completely understand where OP's coming from. The fact that they want to be child-free and go through life not having that kind of a tie-down. But this is also family members, and these family members, if CPS gets involved and decides to remove them, are going to go and live with strangers. I personally don't agree with that. I would absolutely love to know your take on this one though, so if you're on YouTube, make sure to comment down below, and if you're on Spotify, you can drop a comment on the podcast there as well. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and give us a rating on your podcasting platform of choice. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.